All right, and good day, everyone, and welcome to today's session of Truly Foundation and A Course in Miracles with your host and guide, Oliver Blue. I'm delighted to be here. It is but another opportunity for us to be transformed by the renewing of our minds. And today we're going to be looking at the last workbook lesson under the section of what is the last judgment. This is our 10th lesson, 10th lesson that we have studied that supports the idea about what is the last judgment and what does that mean and how does that meaning affect me and you here in this present moment. And what we've learned in this section on the last judgment is that according to A Course in Miracles, that the God that we say that is love, the God that we say that is light only, and in this God there is no darkness. And I think we all agree on that God is love, and in God there is light, and in light there is no darkness. And so what this lesson on the last judgment confirmed with us is that this God of love, this being of love, is changeless and formless and unalterable, and that love must be total and love must be consistent. Love is not like the human experience. Love does not flux and flow. Love does not vacillate. Love is not a respecter of person. Love only gives. Love judges not. Love sees all things as itself. Love is not an emotion. Love is not a feeling. But love is the universal reality that is at the nature of all reality. And so God is love. That means that God is changeless and formless. God is unalterable. Love is not something that can be described, but love is something that is always present. Love is something that can be experienced. And we've all had our experience, whether short-lived or not. We've all had an experience of love. And so what this section confirms, just like all of the rest of the ideas in the Course in Miracles, is that the only reality that exists, it has its nature in love. And therefore, the whole idea of judgment is not a lovable idea. And so where did the idea of judgment come from, as it has been handed down to us from generation to generation, through culture, through religion? Where did it come from? Where did that idea that there is a last judgment to be experienced, where did that come from? We know that at the base of it is fear. We know that at the base of it is separation and division. And we know that it is not synonymous with love. So where did that idea come from? Well, it came from all the other places, it came from the same source of all the other ideas. It came from a tiny mad idea. It came from an error. It came from a falsehood that would indicate that separation is possible, that we could actually separate from our source, that we could be separate from one another, that we could build a world and create and make a world to prove that, and that we could give birth to thousands and thousands and millions and millions and billions of bodies, to validate that separation and division and judgment is real. But even in our efforts, even in our dreams of separation, even in our fantasies, even in our desire to punish not only ourselves but others, none of that has changed the truth that is true always, that God is love, and that God is light, and in God there is no what? There is no darkness at all. That means there is no judgment. If there was an idea of judgment, that idea could be assigned to the time at the point that we were created by love. That's the only judgment that we could really render to the idea of some conclusion other than the original conclusion. And God concluded in his own self, or in her own self, when in the creation process, God did not take something else and make his prize creation, but God took his very own self, or her very own self, and extended herself or his self. Took every attribute of itself, didn't take attributes from something else. But God took his very own nature, his very own essence, which is love, and extended that, which is the nature of love, is to give or to extend itself. And it is that extension is what real creation is. And so what God created was timeless and formless and eternal and infinite, just like itself. And he called it himself, the I am, or he called it man or spirit. So God is spirit, and what God creates is spirit. And so at the very nature of who we are, like we say here at Truly Foundation, it is the real you that loves you, because the real you is love. The real you is God. The real you is the extension of God. We're not these bodies. We're not these government names. We're not these limited selves. We're not these divided selves. We're not these separated selves. That only happens from a mind that has forgotten who it is and have fallen asleep and have dreamt of separation and division, which creates sin consciousness, guilt, and fear, and lack, and scarcity, and sickness, and disease, and the idea of birth and death. All that came out of that tiny mad idea of separation. But we know here that separation is impossible. Ideas do not leave their source. The source of a thing that creates, that is the creator of something, the idea never leaves the creator's mind. That which takes shape or take form does not leave the original idea of the creator. And that's on every level. It's a principle. Every seed produces what? After its own kind. So if God is indeed the creator of this species called man, then in reality, mankind, humanity, just like writings that we have and revelations that have been given to us over the years, that God created man in his own image. He had no other choice. He couldn't create man in any other image. In other words, God created himself like himself, and he called it humanity, or he called it spirit. or he called it being, or he called it himself. In other terms, like the Son, singular Son of God, or it's been referenced to as Christ, as one singular extension and not a multiplicity, as this world would communicate to us, that God has fallen off his throne and broken himself or herself into billions and billions of pieces and it can't be put back together again, that love has been broken apart, that unity has been broken apart, that the very nature of God, which is oneness, has been torn apart. And we have bought that idea and we have perpetuated that idea only to our own demise, only to our own suffering, only to our own anguish. But the days of being asleep is over. The days of believing in separation is coming to an end. And that God is now revealed the truth that is true always, and always have been revealing the truth that is true always. Why? Because love has always been present. What is real has always been present. But the veil has been ripped. The blinders have been removed. And the revelation of who we are continues to be downloaded day in and day out in the minds, in the hearts of humanity, for the purpose of waking humanity up from the dream of separation, for the purpose for man to once again come into the knowledge of the truth of who they are, to know thyself, to know thy creator, and to know that separation is not real, to know that sin consciousness, guilt, and fear is not real. And like we said on our last lesson, to know that death is not real. That was one of the biggest demonstrations that our elder brother, Jesus of Nazareth, purposed to demonstrate to all humanity that death is not real. The sensation of these fragile bodies is not the end of life. It's not the end of life, but it's the continuation of the one life that we all share with God. And that God is the God of the living, not of anything that is dead. That God is the God of the limitless. God is the God of the infinite. God is the God of love. And this is who we are. And when we awake to this reality, and we all will, because God promises that, the sons, the daughters will not sleep forever. Everyone that have ever graced this earth and lived in a space of falsehood, not knowing who they are, believing in the limitations and the limitations of this world, believing in the limitation of the body, believing that they are a body, all will at one point come to know. Everyone in their own time will come to know the truth of who they are. That everyone will wake up. This is what true salvation is. That everyone will eventually wake up and know thyself. To know that as God is, so are we in this world. To know that, like Jesus said, when you see me, you have seen the Father. When you see the Father creation, you have seen the Father. When you see the Father, you have seen the Father's creation, because they're one and the same. It's just that simple. It's not complicated. And so we have discovered in this last section, called What is the Last Judgment? That there is no last judgment. That there was only one judgment, And it was the final judgment. And it happened in creation when God established his own creation. And that was final, meaning it was changeless and formless. So that which God create is changeless and formless and what? Unalterable. This is the essence of who we are. No matter what we have been able to make in this planet, no matter what we've been able to perpetrate as a substitute to our reality, it has not affected the truth that is true always. And so in this section on the final judgment or the last judgment, we have learned that there was no last judgment. There was only one creation, and it's final. And it's unalterable and it's changeless, and this is who we are. And in that, God said that in the final and only judgment is that we are God's holy creation, that we are holy, as just as holy as God is. God is no holier than you are. Because it is God's holiness that created you, and that is a part of your reality. It is what sustains you. It is what guarantees you and me and all humanity that we are at home where God would have us to be, in the heart of God. And that the dream of separation, the dream of multiplicity is coming to what? It's coming to an end once all humanity wakes up. Because once you wake up from a dream, the dream dissipates. You realize, oh, that wasn't reality. And we could look around this physical world and know that it is not reality. This is not our home. We see everything around us. That everything around us is eventually decaying. So that means it cannot be real, because what God creates does not decay. What God creates does not dissipate. What God creates does not fall into a space of limitation. It does not. What God creates is not born, or it does not die. What God creates has no scarcity. It has no lack. It has no sickness. It has no weakness. It's only life, and life more abundantly. So this is who we are. And so it says that God's final judgment is that we are the holy creations of God, that you are holy. Just like Ephesians 1 says in the New Testament, that before the foundation of the world, it was God who said that we should be, and that we are holy, and that we are blameless, holy and without blame before him. How? In love. So you would have to ignore your reality as love to even think that you're anything other than the holy creation of God. You would have to forget who you are. You would have to not know your creator in order to experience not being holy. Holy only means whole and complete. You are whole and complete. So all these feelings, all these sensations, all these emotions and feelings that we are inadequate, that we're not enough, there's something wrong with us, that we are weak and we are vulnerable. All of these ideas, these are not ideas of love. These are not ideas of God. These are ideas that came on the scene when we invited the belief in separation to be our mindset or our way of thinking. And so the mind took on a mind of its own. But the mind of God was not affected by that. The universal mind of love has not been affected. And that's why we've been urged to take the mind not of this world, but the mind of Christ. Let this mind be in you that was also in me, so that we know who we are, so we can be reminded of who we are. We're not weak. We're not frail. We're not finite. We're not limited. But as God is, so are we, even in this world. It's a matter of knowing. It is a matter of knowing and then accepting that which is true and letting go of the false. And so we are still the holy creation of God. We are forever innocent. All the guilt that you've ever experienced, all happened because of a false idea. Every sense of guilt, every sense of fear, every sense of separation, of being vulnerable and weak and frail, that only comes from a thought or a mind that is set on a false idea. Once you embrace the reality of your holiness and your innocence, therein lies your salvation. Therein lies the promise. Therein lies the awakening. Therein lies your enlightenment when you accept these realities as your very own, because they are your very own. And he says the final judgment is not only that we are holy and that we are innocent, but that we're also loving and loved. Why? Because we are born of God. And even John wrote in the New Testament that everyone that is born of God is born of love. Why? Because God is love. You cannot be hate and birth love. You cannot be an apple and birth a pear. You cannot be a dog and birth a cat. No, every seed, this is the law. This is the law of creation. This is the law of the universe. Everything produces after its own kind. Even God said over in Genesis that I am creating my creation in my image and in my likeness. Why? Because that's what the law of creation is. And so we have gone about miscreating, misappropriating, thinking that we have broken the law, and you cannot break the law. You cannot break the law. You cannot break the universal law. We can create laws unto ourselves and break those laws and then tell people that you broke the law. So you're what? Guilty. You're guilty as charged, and you deserve punishment. You deserve to be locked away and the key to be thrown away. That's all human ideas. We created that system, that imperfect system. We created that flawed system as a substitute to love. But even that which we made, the flawed system and all, it cannot and it will not prevail over the law of love. All of the substitutes that we've made from the beginning of time will be prevailed by love, will be done away in love. They're all fading away because they're not true. They're not real. They're all of illusion. And so we are the holy creation of God. We are the innocent creations of God. We are the loving and the loved forever creations of God. And we are limitless, as it says here, that the final judgment, and the only judgment is that we are not limited beings as we would appear to be in these bodies, but we are limitless beings, as Jesus proved in his ascension, in his resurrection and ascension. He proved that death is not real, that the body is not real. It's only a temporary experience. And so we are just as limitless. We're just as eternal and as infinite as God is. This is the final judgment. That you are not a finite being, meaning that limited, but you're unlimited. That you're infinite, meaning there is no beginning and there is no end to you. So that means the birth of a body is not the beginning of that being. No, that's just a temporary experience that came out of the belief in separation. And so it says that not only are we limitless, but that we are completely changeless. So that means that what God created, it is what exists and the only thing that truly exists. Who God created you to be, it has not changed. Your holiness, your innocence, your nature of being loved, your nature of being infinite without limits, your nature of being changeless has not changed. And that we are forever pure. That means we're not going to be pure. That means we're not going to be washed. That means we're not going to be fixed. That means we're not going to be altered. That means that we are pure now. And we've always been pure. And the veil that was placed between our purity and this human experience has been rent, has been torn down, has been removed. And now we can see clearly that the veil has been removed. Jesus said that the body of death is what was a part of that veil. The fear of death was part of that veil. The fear of each other was a part of that veil. The fear of scarcity and lack was a part of that veil. The belief in separation was part of that veil. Our unbelief about our reality was a part of that veil. When Jesus said the veil has been torn, it has been rented, it has been removed. That we've been reconciled back unto the changeless self that we all share. That there is no separation. That all things are new things. All things are as they always were. That the block to the awareness of our true identity, the block to the awareness of love has been removed. That love is always present. That our light is always shining. That we're one, not only with God, but with each other. That is the truth. That is true always. And when we embrace this truth, when we but recognize this truth and accept it for ourselves, is the very moment, is the very holy instant that we begin to experience this oneness, that we begin to experience our true identity, that we begin to see as God sees, that we begin to love in the way that God loves. And we see all things as the one thing. You see, so this is the final judgment, if there is any judgment. So this whole idea of some last judgment, which has its foundation in religion, and it has its foundation in fear. It has its foundation in the ego thinking of this world. Was all designed to keep humanity in a place of stuck, in a place of unhappiness, in a place of unfulfillment. Stuck in a dream, stuck in a fantasy, stuck in vain imaginings and hallucinations, that we hallucinating, think that we're something that we're not. All of us have had that experience, but we are here today at Truly Foundation to inform you that this is not who you are, but that who you are is what God is. And that's a fact. It is a matter of fact. And it cannot be altered or changed. So you can exhale, you can relax, you can be grateful, you can be thankful, knowing that there is no impending doom or gloom for God's creation. Why would God create something and then put the impending doom and gloom before it? That makes no sense. That is fear. And we know that in reality, there is no fear in love. Why? Because fear has torment. Why would God torment his very own self, his very own creation? Even man in his limited thinking don't even go to that extent with his own creations, its own things, the things that it has made. Even the natural man loves his child and would not sentence his child to some type of torture chamber. So how much more the God of light and the God of creation and the God of love and the God of the only reality that there is would only bless that which he creates. He says, surely blessings, I have blessed you. What does it mean to be blessed? What does it mean to be blessed? To be blessed basically means that we have received all that the blesser has, all that the creator has, all that our Father has. We have received it, not so much in form, but we have received the very essence and the very nature, so that we can not only receive, but also give and receive the same nature, the same blessing that we have received. The same blessing. That which I receive, give I unto you. And so until you know that you have received all things that pertaineth unto life and godliness and peace, it's hard to give it away. But it is in the giving of it, it's in the use of it, that we discover more and more of it. It's not in the hiding away of it. It's not in the putting it under a candlestick. It's not when we reserve it or save it for a rainy day. No, but it is in the giving away of that which we receive that we discover more and more of what we have received. That's why Jesus said in his ministry that he said, he that has shall more be given. Do you know what you have? Because if you knew what you had, you would be sharing it and then extending it. Do you know that you're the light of the world? Then you would be extending it. Do you know that you are love only? That the real you is love? And then you would be extending that. So we know by the fruit of our lives where our belief is, what we really believe. Do we really believe that we're one with our Creator? Do we really believe that we're these infinite, impersonal, and self-aware beings that God is? Do we believe that we really have equality with God and one another? Our fruits would show that. Do we believe in the holiness that we share, the innocence that we share, the loveliness that we share, the unlimitedness that we share? Do we believe in the complete changelessness and that we remain as God created us? Do we believe that we are forever pure? The proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the fruit. And so we can examine our own fruits, not others, but examine our own fruit to see if we be in believing, to see if we be in the faith of love, to see if we have really truly embraced our true reality as love and love only. And so here on workbook lesson 320, which is the last lesson in this section on what is the last judgment. It's kind of a conclusive lesson. It kind of wraps it all up for us. And so today's idea gives the acknowledgement of our unity. It gives the acknowledgement of our source. And it says our or my Father, which is a reference to our source, the one source that we all share. It says our Father or my Father gives all power unto us, or gives all power unto me. You got to make this personal with yourself. When you make it personal, you say unto me. When you make a family statement, it is unto us. Because we're all of the one family. We're all of the one kingdom. We're all of the one. We're all of the one. There is nothing but the one. And so it is this source, which is love, which we call Father, gives all power. Notice now, all power unto us. That means that God have not withheld any amount of power from us. And so if we feel weak or anemic, if we feel powerless, it's not that power has been given. It's that our minds have not accepted the reality of what has been given. The mind is the only thing that stands in the way of your walking and using this power. It's the only thing between your use of this power and the power being put to use is our thinking, is our mind. And that's why we spent over a year now in this Course in Miracles working on renewing our minds and being transformed from a way of thinking that is false to a way of thinking that is true. We spent over a year. And if you hang around Truly Foundation, we're going to be spending many years sharing these truths, sharing these ideas until all humanity wakes up to the reality of who they are. This is our life purpose. This is our commission. And it gives me great pleasure to be a part of it. It gives me a great pleasure to be a part of it. And so, our Father gives all power unto us. You know, this statement reminds me of the last statement in the New Testament in the book of Matthew. I think it's Matthew chapter 28. Where this statement is made about all power. I'm reminded of that. So if I turn in scripture, Matthew 28, I believe it is. It says, what does it say? It says, and this is our elder brother speaking. And it says in verse 18, and Jesus came and spake unto them, saying, all power is given unto me in heaven and in earth. What was Jesus representing? He was representing all humanity. He was representing the first son to enter into glory. He was representing the first one that completed his assignment completely. He represented the first one that embraced the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Not just for himself, but for all humanity. Paul picked up on that when he said that God was in Christ, was in Jesus, reconciling all humanity back to himself. So in that act of love, all that is symbolic that all humanity has been reconciled back into its original creation. And now we understand that it never had changed. It's just that we changed our mind. We took on a mind that was not the mind of God or the mind of Christ. But now that we have embraced this one mind that speaks of our holiness, our innocence, our loveliness, our purity, our wholeness, we now think along the lines of who we are. And so he said, all power has been given unto me, or been given unto us in heaven and in earth. In other words, Jesus reminds us of what was spoken in the beginning, in the creation story, where God said, what? We have made this, what we call man, after our image and after our likeness. And so he said, therefore, go and have dominion. He says, have dominion over everything on this earth. That's mean power has been given unto us, what? In heaven and in earth. He said, have dominion. He said, whatsoever you bind in heaven is bound on earth. Whatever you loose in heaven is loosed on earth. And he said, what? Be fruitful, multiply, replenish, subdue, have dominion. So Jesus here in Matthew 28 was just reminding us of what we were given in creation. We were given dominion in creation from the very beginning, from the very inception, that we were made just like our Father to have dominion, to subdue, to bind. So whatever is bound is bound. Whatever is loose is loose. So everything that has ever happened on this planet, everything that has ever happened in time and space, it's been because of man, not necessarily because of God. We're the God of this world. We've always been the God of this world. And this world have always gone in the way of man. But it only takes one that knows the will of God, that is able to keep humanity, to keep the masses, to keep those that are asleep from destroying themselves and destroying the very house that they built. It's always been the one that have kept humanity from burning the house down. Jesus proved that it only takes one to be the Savior. But now, here in 2023, there is a multitude of those that have awakened to the truth. It's a multitude. There have never been as many awakened people on the planet as they are right now. That's why no matter how bad it looks out there, no matter how mean and how insane man acts at times, no matter how it looks on the outside, and we hear all the time of these things that continue to go on, shootings and killings and destruction, earthquakes and all these different natural tragedies, all these things that continue to happen, which Jesus predicted that they would. But he said, what? Be of good cheer. I've overcome the world. Be of good cheer. It's not gonna happen that way. And so in Matthew 28 here, Jesus basically was saying the same thing that God said in creation, that all power has been given unto you. You're the God of this earth. Mankind is not some imposter, not some made up force that is an enemy to God or an enemy to us. We made all of that up. There's no enemy. I've already talked about that. The only enemy is the inner me that's asleep. When we're awake, we realize there is no enemy. There's only the power of God. There's only the power of love. And all these illusions that we made, they just fade away into the nothingness that they came from. Even the belief in separation, it fades into the nothingness that it came from. Even the belief in death, in sickness, in lack, in scarcity, it fades into the nothingness that it came from when you wake up to the reality of who you are in God. That you are this changeless self, that is the same self that God is. You are not a self that is separate from God. The air that you breathe, the consciousness that you have, the awareness that you have, the ability to reason and to have an insight, that's God. That's not you as some separate being. That is the life of God, the ability to see, the ability to hear, the ability to taste, the ability to touch, the ability to love and to forgive, the ability to reason and to be intuitive, the ability to imagine, the ability to remember and to think. All of these are elements of God. The same element. It's just that when we don't have the right mind, we miscreate with them. We misuse them and abuse others. But when we have the mind of God, when we have the mind of Christ, and understand our equality and our oneness with everything, then we create like God, only love. We create only love, only joy, only happiness. And so we were given the authority and the dominion to co-create like God and replenish the earth and extend it and to multiply just like God. But when we allow fear to come in from a tiny mad idea of separation, we got all these history books that has recorded the mess that we have made. But now that we're here, we're to take our place among the saviors of the world, just like our elder brother did, and to become the light of the world, and to be a part of God's plan of salvation to wake up all those that are asleep. And so that's what he says. All power has been given unto us. That has not changed in heaven and in earth. That's why when you change your mind, you're able to change your environment. You're able to change your life when you change your mind about who you are. When you discover the reality of what has been given unto you. And so, the lesson here, my Father, or our Father, gives all things unto us. What God creates is limitless. That means you and I are limitless. We're not these bodies. We are not these bodies. We are what animates the bodies. We are what give the body a stage to perform. We are the source of the life that animates all things. We are not the things. But we know that without the Spirit, there is no thing. Without the true nature of who you are, there is no thing. And so we are not the effects, but we are the source. We are the cause of everything. Everything that you've ever experienced in your life, you are the cause of it. Your thinking has been the cause of it. Because you're a source. You're like your Father. And all the things that we have made and created around us, all the things that we have attracted in our lives is the result of our thinking. And what we have attracted in our lives and what we have experienced in our lives, if we don't like it, we can change it. There has to be a change of thought. There has to be a change of idea. And that's why we're spending these over a year and almost a half right now. We've been here singing this song of oneness. We have been here singing this song of unity. We have been here singing this song of your holiness and your loveliness and your changelessness and your sinlessness and your guiltlessness. We've been singing this song for a year and a half. And I hope you're hearing. This is who we really are. Because when we wake up to that reality, we will stop miscreating and start co-creating with love. The world will change when the hearts of humanity change. All the fighting, all the killing, all of the starvation, all the suffering, all the sickness, all of the diseases, all of the physical destruction, all of nature that seems out of course, all the ugliness in the world will change when humanity changes its mind, because we are the gods of this world. God is somewhere. You remember it says in the creation story that after the sixth day, God said, "It's done, it is finished." And God went to a private beach somewhere and he's chilling out. He said, "I've given them all things." They are the God of this world. What kind of world are they making with it? They have all power given unto them. What are they doing? And he sent his son down. Well, one of his sons woke up and say, let me see what's happening here. And he reminded us of the original. He reminded us of our dominion. He reminded us of our power. He reminded us of our nature as being holy and loving and innocent and whole and complete and forever pure. He reminded us. And so I'm here today reminding all humanity with this message of the real you, that the real you has not been changed or altered. Wake up from the sleep of separation. The only healing we need as a species is to be healed from the sense of separation, that tiny mad idea that created all of the mess. So I implore you, be ye reconciled, be ye returned to the Father, be returned to your original self, to the original mind, which is what? Limitless. Because what God created has no limits. It has no limits. And so there are no limits on God's strength. There's no limit. Whatever strength we need, it's available. He says there is no limit on God's peace. If we find ourselves void of peace, here it says there is no limit on peace. So there's obviously something wrong. There's something wrong, and it's in our thinking that if we'll find ourselves without peace, if we're seeing ourselves any way other than the way that we've been made, that's where we lack the peace. We're holding on to a falsehood. We're holding on to a false self, a false thought system, a false world, a false idea. He says there are no limits to God's strength, to God's peace, to God's joy, nor any attribute that God gave us in creation. So God gave us everything in creation, and it has not changed. It has not been altered. It has not changed, and it has not been altered. That's why the writer says over in Philippians that we can do all things in this creation that God calls Christ. We can do all things in Christ which strengthens us. It gives us the strength, whatever strength we need, whatever joy we need, whatever peace we need. It is already inside of us. It is already ours. It's a part of our nature. And the veil has been removed. So what are we waiting for? What are we afraid of? Remember, we talked about don't be afraid of love, because this is what you are. When we are afraid of our own self, we feel weak and without peace, and we feel joyless, because we are what? We are still hanging on to the residuals of an illusion. We're still hanging on to an idea that is not real about who we are. There's still a residual effect of the identity crisis. But the identity crisis is over. There's nothing stopping any of us for being the love that we are. No one can force you, because you are not a body. You are not a limited self, but no one can force you to be something that you're not, to think something that you're not, because it's not informed. No one can alter what you believe about yourself. They don't have that power. The power been given unto you. They can lock you up in the deepest dungeon, throw away the key, and it doesn't change the reality of who you are. And in that deep, dark dungeon, you can still have joy and peace and strength, knowing who you are. It says, what we will, because we've been given dominion. So whatever we will with our Creator and our Redeemer must be done. So what we will for ourselves, that's what is being done in our human experience. Your will is powerful. He said, I've given it unto you. I've given dominion unto you. He's not going to take it away. God didn't create robots. God created himself. He can't do it for you. He can't remember for you. He can't think for you. You have to learn for yourself. You have to come to know yourself for yourself. Your parents can't do it for you. The government can't do it for you. The church can't do it for you. The synagogues, all these spiritual paths, they can't do it for you. No matter what you're studying, no matter what rituals you're following. At the end of the day, you have to know who you are. You have to accept it for yourself. And so his holy will can never be denied, because his Father shines upon his mind and lays before his mind all of his strength, all of his love in heaven and in earth. He says it here again. God has given us everything. And so that's why we haven't been denied what we have embraced. Even if we don't like it, you're not denied. You can walk out into the street and make a foolish decision. You won't be denied. You walk in front of that car, guess what? You won't be denied. But that's not the will that you want for yourself. That's not the will you want for anyone. God wants you to embrace it for yourself. He wants you to know that it is yours. It's not a requirement. It is your nature. It is who you are. It is your inheritance. And so we have all the strength that we need. The Bible talks about what? In our false self, we're weak, but that we should allow the strength of Christ, the strength of our true creation to rest upon us. In our false self, we're weak, but in Christ, we are strong. We are powerless. We are powerful. We can't be denied. When you stand up for the truth of who you are, you cannot be denied. When you assert yourself as the creation of God, as being innocent and whole and complete and blameless and sinless and guiltless, you cannot be denied. All of heaven and earth will back you, regardless of what may be standing against you. When you stand up for who you are, and our elder brother proved that, you cannot be denied. So I am. Notice now, this is who you are. You are the I am. And that's why we've been having what we've been saying after we say I am. So what have we been saying after I am? I am weak. I am broke. I am black. I'm white. I'm American. I'm Republic. I'm Democrat. I am ashamed. I am hopeless. I am a victim. What have we been saying? Because whatever you've been saying, that's what you've been experiencing. Because you are indeed the I am. And you can't be denied. The universe will give you exactly what you say and believe. And we have gotten that. But the moment that we wake up from this sleep of separation, we say with boldness that I am as he is. And as he is, so am I. And I am that. I am. And you'll get from that. And you experience that. You experience your love. You will experience your innocence, your wholeness. You will experience your holiness. You will experience your purity. I am that I am. You are what God created. And that has never changed. You remain as God created you. And that's good news. And so I am he who all this is given. God has given me everything. God has given everyone everything equally. There are no respecters of person. There are no favoritism. God is not a respecter of person. There is no specialness in love. So all of this specialness that we see in the world, we made that up. And you see where it's gotten us. God has nothing to do with specialness. God has nothing to do with a remnant. God has nothing to do with putting someone on the left and putting someone on the right. That's our idea. It hasn't gotten us anywhere, but a lot of suffering. There is no left and right in God. There is no up and down in God. There is no duality in God. There's only one, and we're all a part of that one. So I am he to whom all has been given, all power, all dominion, all love, all joy, all peace, every single solitary thing that we desire, that we require. All the light that there is, all the intelligence that there is, it's been given unto us in the mind of God. And so when we reconnect with the mind of God or the mind of Christ, like Jesus said, let this mind be in you that was also in me, then we will know our equality. Then we will know our purity, our innocence, our holiness, our unlimitedness. When we begin to think with the right mind. I am he in whom the power of my Father's will abide. Is that you? Is that you? So say yes, that is me. It's all of us. And our denial of it doesn't change it. It's still there. The moment you decide to remove the block to the awareness that love is present everywhere, that God is everywhere and in everything, is the moment that you begin to enjoy your nature, enjoy your inheritance as the creation of God. And so, in conclusion, it is the Father's will that can do all things in us, not for us, but in us and as us. It is the will of God. It is the one will of God. That's why Jesus said when he taught his disciples to pray, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, that I have come here to do thy will, O God. That is our purpose for being here. And until we embrace the will of God, we're doing our own thing. That leads to what? That leads only to pain and suffering. But when we realize the will of our Father and that we're here to do the will of God, and that is to be the very expression and the very image of love that we all are, that it is our will to be the light of the world and to forgive this world for what it's not. Therein lies your joy. Therein lies your peace. Therein lies your sense of oneness, your sense of belonging. Therein is the release of all sin consciousness, guilt, and fear. And so, your will can do all things in us, and then extend to all the world. You want to know your purpose? Is to let God, the God in you, be you, and extend the you, the real you, which is love, unto all the world, as well as through yourself, as through everyone. There is no limit in the Father's will. If we feel like we are limited, we're not in the Father's will. We're in our own will. We're not seeing through the eyes of oneness. We're seeing through the eyes of separation. It's as simple as that. If we're not feeling peace or joy, because we're seeing through the eyes of separation and indifference. It says there is no limit to your will. And so all power indeed has been given to your creation. And so that is the final judgment. That all power has been given unto you. That nothing has changed. That you remain as God created you. That you have all authority. That you have all power, all dominion to subdue, to multiply, to co-create. Love only. Light only. It's yours. It's mine. It's everyone. It's always been there. It's always been there. So from this day forward, I implore you to let go of all ideas of fear and separation. The fear of death, the fear of lack, the fear of sickness, the fear of rejection, the fear of being homeless, the fear of that's not being enough, this fear of scarcity. Let go of the fear of not being enough. Let go of the fear of seeing yourself as inferior to others, or even as inferior to God. You are not even inferior to God. You have equality with your creator. That's the way love is. Love don't have levels. There is no levels in God. There's no levels in heaven. There's only one. It's just that simple. We have complicated this thing, but life is simple. God is simple. Love is simple. And I love simplicity. Don't you love simplicity? I love simplicity. Thank you so much. This has been a very, very rewarding section, the final judgment. And I thank God for the revelation so that we don't walk in fear, so that we don't walk in doubt and unbelief. But there's nothing to fear. Fear not the love that you are, but love the love that you are. It's the real you. Because the real you is love. The real you is just like the love that God is. There is no difference. So we have to let go of all these false ideas that we've been conditioned with by this world, even by those that mean well, even by those that, are our loved ones that are still asleep. When you wake up because you let go of the falsehood. You let go of the illusions. You let go of the unbelief. You let go of the tradition that's not in alignment with love. Let it go. On the other side of your letting go, all there is your reality right there. It's been there all the time. Love has forgotten no one. It cannot. For God to forget anyone, God would have to forget himself or herself or itself. It is time to wake up. It's not going to come in your mailbox. It comes through the recognition. It comes through the awareness that really what I feel deep inside, what I really feel like there's something there that I'm not aware of. That something there that you think you're not aware of is your very own self. That what you think you're not aware of is the God of your creation. And when you find yourself, you find God. And when you find God, you find yourself. Why? Because you and God are the same. You're the same being. You share the same life. You share the same love. It's not something that is separate from you. This idea that been planted in us, that God is off somewhere, that love is off somewhere. No, it is your very self. It is the very self that you are. It's the very life that we all share. And I'll say it until the last breath leaves my body, that you remain as God created you, that you are holy, you're innocent, that you're pure, that you're righteous, and that there's no end to you. There is no end to your reality. And people won't always be asleep. Eventually, God promised that everyone eventually will wake up at some point. How many more lifetimes do we have to live? You don't want to keep coming back to this place, going back through all of the forgiveness lessons, all of that. You don't want to have to do that. No. In this lifetime, tell yourself, this is it for me. In this lifetime, embrace your reality. Do all your forgiveness lessons by letting everything go, everyone go. Because in dreams, nothing is real. And we've been dreaming of separation. And when you realize that, and when you wake up, you say, oh my God, it was only a dream. Thank God. Nothing has changed. I'm the loving creation that God created. The world going to get this. Who is the world? The world of those. The world is no more than a false idea of who we are. The world is not form. It's not, dirt and buildings and all of the things we see around us. This is not the world. This is just what we produced. But the world is the sleeping son and daughter of God. But when they wake up, they're no longer asleep. And then they let the world go free. So it's happening every day, one by one by one. There are thousands, there's millions that are waking up to their true identity and experiencing the peace of God. And it can happen to you right now by saying yes to your true identity, yes to your wholeness, yes to your oneness, not only with God, but with all of us. There is no separation. There is no separation. Gotta go. We'll be back tomorrow. Our next section is going to be what is creation. So we'll start the next 10 lessons will be about what is creation. What does that really mean? What does that mean? What is creation? Because it was in the creation process that we were brought forth, and you want to understand that. And it didn't happen when you were born of a woman and given a government name. But you was created before the foundation of the world. That means you existed before there was any world, any form, any time. And we're going to talk about that. And you want to understand that. Have a great day. This is Oliver. We'll be back. Selah. Bye-bye.